Hello everybody and welcome to another SWGOH video. Today we're not actually going to be in the game. We're going to be talking about the best resource we have outside of the game to understand the game itself. And there's SWGOH.gg. Why.gg? I think it's like an island off the coast of the United Kingdom, but also it's like GG, good game. So it's kind of a good gamer domain name. But I'm going to be going through most of the tabs. I'm not going to go over everything because everything I don't think is super important. And there's just so much I would never be able to cover it all. Like on the unit tab, I'm going to go over kind of what you can do with character ships. The abilities tab, it's not really something I use much. And then also relic player data is under the units tab. So first off, looking at units, you can see every unit in the game. You can search it here. They even have compensated for some things that aren't in the spelling of the name. So if you like type Riva, Third Sister will come up, even though that's not the in-game name. You can also filter if you're looking for a specific faction. You can look at every character in that faction. You can filter by light side, dark side, and also this is particularly helpful in Conquest. You can filter by ability class. So if you need to inflict potency down or something, you can filter by characters that will have that ability, potency down, potency up. So like for some of those lesser known buffs, debuffs that are kind of hard to find, you can find it just by searching like this. And that's a lot of the way that I get through Conquest when they have those annoying feats. Just go to SWGOH.gg and filter by that. Look through the kit, see if they have like an AoE implication of it or just single target, whatnot. So you can do that for almost every type of buff out there. Not 100% of all of them, but a lot of them. And then in the individual unit screen, we have tons of information to look through. On the default page for a character, we have all their abilities, and you can see the progression of each tier level. So if you already have a character's abilities leveled up and you're trying to remember which part does which, you can come here and check that out. It shows the materials needed to upgrade them as well. Really helps me to look through when I'm not able to look at something I already upgraded. And also on the right, you can filter and look what their stats are going to be for some of these higher levels. Gear 12 just means no pieces added. Gear 12 plus 3 is all the left side pieces, or all the left side pieces, and Gear 12 plus 5 is those two on the left, and then Gear 13. So you can check what a character's stats are going to jump to with each iteration, and a lot of them don't change. So see, like up through here, none of these stats are changing from relic. So that's just something you can tinker around with. It's going to be really helpful. You can see their mastery stat. It has all the tags for them, the ability classes, so on and so forth, where you can find them. Tons of useful stuff. Also on the left, you have, and on a phone, it's going to say like character navigation. So you could pick different, you can do a drop down box and pick one of these. You can see the best mods for a character, meaning what is being used. And you can also filter by league, which is helpful. So I'm always looking at Kyber in my examples because I'm trying to look at what the best mods are, what the best players are using. But you can see what people are using in your league as well. So for example, in Kyber, the average speed of Admiral Piet is 318. In Bronzium, it is 142. Massive difference, 135. And that's in counting players that have like a low gear Piet or something. But you can see what people are using. Best primary mod, primary stats, sets, all that kind of stuff. You can also go to counters. I don't look at counters this way, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. But like if you're looking at a leaders page, you can click on counters and see what they're good against. Also, who to attack. Piet lead is a bad example because people don't use Piet lead; they use Veer's lead. But that is there. And this is a really helpful page that I use all the time. I still use it, like gear levels. It shows what piece of gear is needed at each gear level to get to the next one. So when you're starting out flat, you're on gear level 1, these are all the pieces you'll need to get to gear level 2. And this is helpful to scout, say, what kind of gear wall you're going to run into after you upgrade. So if I'm at gear 9 and I want to get to gear 10, I'm thinking, okay, do I want to apply that Chirotech? If I apply it, what am I going to get stopped by? And then at gear 10, there's another Chirotech. So that's a good way to scout. But then gear 11, you don't have any more Chirotech. So if you're really bottlenecked by just Chirotech, or gear 10 is actually 2 Chirotech. So that might discourage you from going from gear level 9 to 10 until you have a lot more. But then 10 to 11, you know you're not going to be stopped by it. And I do this all the time. I look at this, like I said, constantly. I'm trying to see, okay, what character am I farming? What pieces are they going to need? What do I need to stock up on for the future? You don't have to wait until you actually get there to figure it out. Another way to look at what gear they have is full gear list. And that shows from the highest quantity to the lowest quantity, all the gear pieces that character is going to need to get all the way to gear 13. So you can see, okay, is this character going to need a ton of Carbantes? Are I going to need a lot of Chirotech? Every character is going to have at least 100 Chirotech, because that is the Chirotech needed to go from gear 12 to gear 13. But then newer characters that require Chirotech before gear 12 will have more than 100 of a single one of these. Relic tier list. It's showing what just in a granular approach, what each relic tier is going to give you. So you could play around on that home screen for a character, or you could go here and see what they have. And then this part is more of a just statistical curiosity, but you can click on player data and there's a filter here. So this is looking at the top 100 guilds. We're going to see the distribution of this character among those players. So 4,987 have them all the way at level 85. There's 2 people in the top 100 guilds that have them at level 1. So that's interesting. I wonder who those 2 people are. If you're one of them, please comment. The star distribution and gear level. If there's a lot of different gear levels, it would show here, but everyone in the top 100 guilds pretty much has Piet at gear 13. And then you can look at the abilities, see how many of them are maxed out among all players. Mods is another way to look at the mod sets and the stats. You're going to see kind of a statistical distribution of what people have. So there's health, speed, protection. There's all the major ones that you're going to look at. So it's really helpful, really useful to take a look at. And then if you click on top players, that's actually taking you over to another tab, the stats tab, and showing you like the fastest or the most protection or things like that among players in the game. So that is the unit tab or the character view. Next we have ships, and kind of a lot of the same things, except you can't look at the granular modification of stats because ships are very different, hard to calculate because it's not direct. They vary based on, okay, how many $5 6-dot mods do they have, how many gear pieces. Each gear piece is a generic thing. This is just showing, I think these stats are for like a completely maxed out pilot and ship. So this is assuming 7 star on each, like relic 9 pilot, zetas, everything. So not as much info on the ship part, but still plenty. And then for the last thing, the unit tab we're going to look at is relic comparison, or it's like it said, yeah, relic comparison. You can look at what is the most commonly R9, R8, R4 character in the game. So R9, the most common R9 character is Emeritus, followed by Malik. It's actually kind of surprising because, I mean, you need... Revan is needed for Leviathan. And never mind, Malik's also needed for Leviathan, but I guess there's more interest in R9ing Darth Malik outside of the ship than there is Darth Revan. Admiral Piet, I'm a little bit surprised to be so far down, but R9 is not required for the ship. R9 is required to get Profundity, and on these 2 is required to get unlock the Leviathan. And then after that, after we have the forced requirements, it falls all the way down to 34,400 R9s on Jedi Master Luke. So if you're trying to decide who to R9, who to R8, you can look here and filter and see who the most popular ones are. Like GK, 183,000 players have an R8 GK. And R7, Emperor Palpatine. So it makes sense because these are like requirements of R7, and then there's not really a compelling reason to take them past that. R4, I bet I'm going to see Director Krennic. Yeah, because he's the only one required at R4. So, and then 3, yeah, I couldn't even begin to guess, but just an interesting thing, interesting little thing to play around with. Now let's move on to the stats tab. I think going through this tab will be a little bit faster. So top players, you can filter to see who it defaults to the highest galactic power in the game. So the highest GP in the game right now is 15.25 million power. And then you filter by ships. It's just kind of like a statistical curiosity here. Who's done the most galactic wars? So this is like kind of a proxy for who has been playing the game the longest without a break. So that's kind of interesting. Guild contribution. Sure shot. Is that the guy? He was the one. He did videos with Warrior Presents, right? Is that the same guy? Huh, that's interesting. But anyway, we've gone top characters. You can, we already looked at this, filter by a different character. Who's the fastest? So the fastest character, and this is just all characters right now. So I guess the fastest character in the game is a Ray that has 610 speed. The meta report, this is again a statistical curiosity. This is what people were using in Squad Arena and then Fleet Arena. And it doesn't matter as much because we don't get crystals in Squad Arena anymore. But people still typically put their best team in Squad Arena. So right now it's a lot of JMK and Supreme Leader Kylo because AR focuses on the Datacron set. And you can see which character is the most common. So right now the most common character in Squad Arena, Commander Ahsoka Tano. It's actually kind of fun to poke around with. Not necessarily like useful, but... and then Fleet Meta Report. Leviathan. Everyone's running Leviathan. Some people are still using Executor. But this is, I think, from all fleet shards. So a lot of newer fleet shards are going to have more Executors in there. And then we got some Chimera because people use that to counter Leviathan. And then, so meta history, I don't use that too much. So, okay, past 7 days. So it's just kind of like a running statistical total. Mod report, just showing by top guilds. I don't really use this one much. Omicron report. This is also interesting. So this is showing how many of each Omicron have been applied by players. The most common Omicron in the game is Wampa, 259,000 applications. And compare that to the most popular TB and TW ones. Only 108,000 for Rolo and 225,000 for Poggle. So that is very popular, actually. And then you can... It's not like the best way to gauge how you want to apply things, but it does give you a sense of what other people are doing. And then there's only the one Galactic Challenge one there. Yeah, the saddest one for me is Chirpa. I think Chirpa's like the biggest waste among out here. I also think like Akbar and Princess Leia are a waste, but they're further down because people, they get their Ewoks ready for C-3PO and they feel like they have to apply the Omicron. And then you can also look at Zetas and Omegas, but you know, they're way more common. However, it is interesting to see what the most common Zetas in the game are, although there's a lot of data to go over for that. Most popular one, which I think is really weird, is Darth Vader's unique. I mean, I think Merciless Massacre should be the most popular, but it's unique. But Vader's way up there, Palpatine, Yoda, these are all very early accessible characters, so that's why most of the player base has them. You're not going to be seeing like a Galactic Legend here or like a Conquest unit just because people don't have them. And that, I think, is all for the Stats tab. Next major tab we have is GAC, and I probably use this more than any other page on SWGOH. First of all, I just want to get out and say I don't have insight. I know it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. You can filter things way more granularly than you can in just the general. But I get by with just the general. So the main thing we look at is counters. So 5v5 and 3v3. It's going to show you which season it is. You can go look at past seasons as well to see how things used to be, although that's kind of hard to like keep track of. So the most recent season we just finished was 5v5. So we go in there, we see it's sorted, it's defaulted to be sorted in order of which team was set the most by leader. So we got Rey and Finn were the most common. And it shows the win percentage, like how often was this team beat when it was set on defense. And we've got about 4 tabs here with a few dozen on each. So if we want to see how to beat a specific team, we can click down to the exact team we're facing. So this is, I guess it's sorted by win percentage here. So let's sort by scene. See, this is the most popular matchup overall. So this is the most common occurrence of one exact specific 5-man team attacking one other specific 5-man defensive team. And that most common team was Rey, Holdo, BB-8, Ben, and JTR. People were using Sierra Malicos with crew. You can also, if you're looking through just counters and you don't know your starting point, you can uncheck this box. You can click this to exclude Galactic Legends. So I saw JML earlier. I'm not going to see him anymore. Like if I don't want to look at Galactic Legend counters, you can just toggle that and it's kind of useful. But say I want to narrow down to a very specific lineup. So I'm going to do Ben first because people pretty much always use Ben. And I'm looking for that Rex, Echo, Cal lineup. So here's Echo. He's very uncommon, so I clicked him first. That's going to narrow it down for me. Then Captain Rex, and then Cal. You can also check the X box or X the box up here to remove something you filtered. So when we had this team, the most common counter, or the most often used, was Bane and Sith Assassin. We also have Bane and Sith Empire Trooper. It just depends what people are choosing to do. And we see the average banners on them. Also, we see that Steer Malicos team that had such a high win rate in the first frame is down to 52%. And then this is only showing like instances that are past a certain amount seen. So we're not being flooded with all these low percentage wins. So I can sort by win percentage there. And the main reason we have that automatically toggled to start with is because if you have it sorted by win and you don't have a cutoff, you're gonna see all these single instances or like one or two that have like a 100% because only one person did it once ever, and that's all there's to it. But yeah, when we take off that toggle, we're looking more at a dozen, 10, 20 instances, and we can narrow it down from there. Again, it's not perfect. Without Insight, you're not going to see everything. With Insight, you can toggle Omicrons, you can filter all kinds of different things. But just the general purpose one, I think, is still great. Again, I use it all the time. You can get a sense of what you can feel comfortable with or what you should really, really stick away from. And we also have the same type of deal for fleets. There aren't that many to look through, so we don't even have a second screen for the capital ships. But if I'm trying to see who to counter for Executor, same thing. You go in and you select the ships you want. One piece of difference that I forgot to go over for the land. If you're looking for a specific counter, you can click Add a Unit, select a defensive unit, or an attacking unit or attacking lead. So I can say, okay, I want to see instances where they have Captain Rex on the raid team, and then I want to see all instances with Darth Bane lead. So we just filter like that. You can also just click over here. It accomplishes the same thing. But yeah, that's just a piece of functionality there. We do not have that in ships. I think it would be great to add that because it's a lot harder to filter things out for like an edge case if there's not a very common lineup. So if I wanted to see like a Slave 1 starting lineup, I'd have to scroll through and find it. And it's not very common, so I don't see it there. There's 44 screens of this. It's going to be really hard to find. So that's just one shortcoming, weakness of it. But say I want to counter a Houndstooth starting lineup. So I'm going to click Houndstooth, Razor Crest. I also need to go, or I am on the first page. Razor Crest and Xanadu Blood. So the most popular and successful ones seem to be Profundity, and they have pretty high average banners. I can also sort by average banners. I would recommend just scrolling past the instances of 1 or 2 or something. So here, this one, 15. It's a lot higher. This is a 3-man team. It's 100% win, but that's going to lead to the highest banners because people underdogged. I'd be surprised if this was 100% that much more if everyone was trying it. But that is ship counters. We also have who to attack. It looks the exact same as kind of the counters defensive list. But let's sort by someone that's more of a niche attacking team. Okay, let's look at Malgus. What is Malgus the best at? It's color coded to help your eye just filter through easily. So we got all these greens. They're varying shades. This kind of like bright mint green is the best. I believe it's probably like 95% plus. Then we see, okay, here's a red one, 71% win rate against Gungans. So people think it's a really good counter. It is decent. And this is all from last season, but it's decent, but not super safe. We got great win rates against Reva, Malicos, CLS, Archer Moff Gideon. poor win rate against this Finn team. And we can have the same thing. We can just click a leader to filter. We don't have that lookup function, so you just have to click around, but we see, okay, what did they do against the team with Holdo? And you really have to gauge this by the season you're in. If you're watching this video way in the future from when I released it, there's a very powerful Holdo Datacron right now. She's not good normally otherwise. So that's how you use who to attack. If you just have a team, you're like, I want to use this team, try to figure out who to attack that way. GAC leaderboard, this is just showing the skill rating of all players, see who's in the lead right now. I think a lot of these are like the 4 or 5 million GP players that are lower. You can filter by league and division. So that's more of a little curiosity. GAC meta, this is something to help you see what's performing the best on each side of the board. So what I like to use this for the most, this tab, is go to defense. So who's doing the best on defense? And it automatically sorts by hold rate. So how many times was that team attacked? And it rebuffed the attack. It got the hold. The best one right now, or from last season, is Finn Holdo. We got 2 iterations, one with Rose and one with Poe. This is not accounting for specific Omicrons or Datacrons or anything, but just flat out that team. So that's pretty good. 43% hold rate is amazing. That's way higher than everything else. We could toggle cutoffs and have a higher cutoff, and we're going to have less teams. We're going to see, okay, this is only having, I guess, teams that were seen over 40,000 times. But it defaults to 0.5%. I kind of leave that as is. And then it shows in wins, what was the average banner win. So it's not all about hold rate. Sometimes it's about low banners. So Java was a good banner stealing team. And most of the others are 60s. So like 65.5. Yeah, it goes downhill pretty fast. So if you're trying to figure out your defense, this is a good place to start. 3v3 is also a good place to look. I'm using this lineup too from last season. We have the same Datacrons, so I've just used Ray, Ben, and Cal, and then I have Holdo on another team somewhere else. But yeah, so that's a very, very useful part of the GAC tab. I don't think there's anything else I really do. You can look someone up specifically, and I don't have insight like I said, but that is it for the GAC tab for this video. The database tab, I don't use it too much. The one thing I use it for the most probably is looking back at old Datacron sets, because there's not really much of a repository anywhere else to see what old Datacron sets did. So you can go back to the beginning, like go back to the very first Datacron set, Treatise Inquisitorius, and look at like the faction mechanics, Galactic Republic. I think we had like an automatic stun or something. Yeah, the stun the target for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. So it's interesting to go back and look at that. And also when I'm making my videos on Datacrons, I'll use this to look at things easily. But this is just kind of like for curiosity's sake. It has lists of all kind of data disks we've had, gear. You can look at specific gear like Carbanti. Okay, we can say, oh, look at this Mark III Carbanti. Where do I farm the material? What is it used in? How many times do people need it? Like this is showing how many people need the stun gun. Oh no, that's need just a flat out completed Carbanti. So that is kind of useful if you're planning, and that helps me determine which pieces are the most needed. Just a database for everything. I mean, it's literally self-descriptive, and I don't use it much, but it is interesting here and there. It shows like which I don't know, like when you click on relics, I'm trying to like find out like what the abilities are, but it just shows what the icon is for each character. It is interesting, and I think it's like a lot of hard work to keep this up, but yeah, just each tab is showing things. I don't know the practical application of this, but I am glad that they have it tracked on this website at least. And that's all I'm going to talk about for the database tab. And I'm not going to look at like much of the guild tab or news tab. News links to like forums and stuff. Guilds shows the largest guilds in the game. But one important thing that we have we can look at top players, or we can look at any player. So if you just Google yourself, Google your profile. So let me just Google. I Google this myself a lot. So Sanjita SWGOH. That's how I look at my own profile, because what's actually linked to my account is an old account that I abandoned a long time ago, and it's not my actual account. So I have to Google myself a lot. You see charts of how they're doing, how many characters they have unlocked, Zetas, Omicrons, stars, different gear levels, and their chart for how they've been up and down in Grand Arena. So if you're facing someone in Grand Arena, you can scout how your opponent did, how they've been doing. If they're on a long win streak, you might have an easier time because they might be out of their depth. And if they're on a losing streak, I feel like you're going to have a harder time because they are much lower than they would normally be. We got all kinds of stats for players. You can see their collection specifically. You can look at how they're modding their characters. So this, when I click on any of the characters here, it'll say Sunjita's Jedi Master Luke. So this shows all the specific mods I have on mine. So you can look at this for any player out there. It's really helpful, really interesting. You also look at their GAC history. You can sort by the specific week, which round it was. So I lost 2 out of the 3 last week, and I can check. So I lost to Mark, and I can see what I used on their defense and what they used on my defense. So this is Mark attacks Sanjita's defense. He used Treya on my Zori, got 60 banners. He dunked on my Saul team with Jabba, Malgus against my Seer, and in 63 banners. You can also see which datacrons they use. So this is a very, very useful scouting tool if you're trying to figure out what your opponent did. And then GAC bracket, I look at this a lot. This is who I am facing, or this is who I just faced. I just faced Koloch. You can kind of see how you line up against your whole bracket. For me, I mean, in this account, everyone has everything, but in lower leagues, it's going to be more useful and show a lot more differentiation. But that is a phenomenal resource there. GSC bracket raid history. This is something interesting. Like, you don't always think about looking at this. You can see how my interest has waned for the speeder bike pursuit. I was going gung-ho, getting 14, 15 million. I've been taken off a little bit more, averaging more of around 10 million. I think one time, the lowest I've done in a long time is 6.9 million. So either raid history. Yeah, okay, the tools tab, I guess, just showing like what is the most common Zeta or common Omicron that you don't have. So I have a lot of Zetas on my account. The most popular one that I don't have, I guess, is Rolo, because that leads to the Omicron. I don't have Mara Jade's Omicron. I know, it's a point of shame. But there's a lot of TW Omicrons in here. This is a GAC one. So it's just a helpful tool to say, okay, I don't have this. What do I need to go for? And then probably the last thing I can think, I mean, SWGOH is so deep. The last thing I think I'll look at is the guild screen. Actually, put a pin in that. There's one important thing I forgot to cover, and that is the Galactic Legend Gear Needed tab. It's not just gear, and it's not just Galactic Legends, but any character that requires several relic characters is going to have an entry here, or even Cal only requires gear 12. You can click on anything and see what you need to get that character. Now, I don't need anything for any of the GLs that I have, but pretty much the only thing I can click on for me is Jar Jar Binks. It's going to show how much of each relic scrap you need. So 80 Erodium Heat Sinks, that means I need 4 more characters, a relic 5. How much signal data of each type. How many gear pieces, especially helpful when you're planning out a Galactic Legend farm. So if you're trying to see what you need to go for next, I highly recommend doing just a quick look at this to see where you're getting into. Because Lord Vader's going to have like the most Chirotechs and Carbontes. So really just filter through this. Invaluable resource. I used to use it all the time. I don't use it on my main account anymore. But I'm probably going to be using it a lot on the GoTanks account moving forward. Because it is just extremely useful. I cannot overstate what a great resource this is. And now let's look at the guild. And this is where I size up our TW opponents and compare them to my guild when I'm doing a TW video. It shows like major highlights like the meta ships, like legends they have, GP and stuff. You can sort by who has the most GP in your guild, who has the highest skill rating. Who's that? Yeah, the highest skill rating, like even a raid rank, fleet order rank. That used to be important, but not as much anymore. You can see their TW history, exactly who they have been facing, what the result was, the score, the date, the GP. So look, we had a really nice win streak here. I'm not in like a we have to win every TW guild, but it's just nice to see. Last 3 months we've been at 69% win rate. So we've been doing worse than the last 6 months as a whole, 80% win rate. Overall, 72%. TB history shows what TB they did, when, how many stars they got. Now, this is when we had that issue and everyone was in GOTB for a little bit, but we're at 39 stars. Raid history, what was our total score? You see kind of the same thing that happened with me. We got highest to a peak, and then it just kind of teetered out. We're getting lower, just trying to get that box and then not really be worried about it. This is something I don't use. I didn't even know about, didn't really use. I guess it's showing what percentage of the player's characters are relic ready for the raid. So where am I? I'm kind of a min-maxer. I'm 57.78% total relics that are applicable to the raid. We're talking about speeder bike. Unit search, you can also see how many of any character a guild has. So let's say Jar Jar, because he's the newest, shiniest toy out there. You can sort it by anything, relic tier. So we got so many players that don't have them. We have 9 players that do. All of them are in at least relics. And you can do that with anything. It's got ships, and it's got characters, but ships are down lower. GP, just showing all players. GP differences. I don't really know the difference between players' GP and the maximum GPs. I guess how much GP they're missing from each character. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't really get that. The collection. That's not very useful. Datacrons. Level 9 Datacrons. 600. I guess. Yeah, this is just totaling up a bunch of stuff. Getting less and less useful from the guild screen, but you see how many players in the guild have a certain Omicron. The most common one, I guess, is Malgus. Let me see what the least common one for our guild is, TW-wise. Yeah, okay, good. The Inquisitor leaderships, no one has them. I'm glad, because they are completely useless. And then GAC, no one has Queen Amidala. I'm glad to see no one has direct credits or BT1s, and only 1 000 in our guild. So that's actually kind of interesting. Same thing with Zetas, I'm assuming. Again, I don't really use this tab on the guild screen. I don't know, it's just showing total Zetas and Omicrons. Okay, Kral Yuta has the most Zetas. Let me search myself. Oh, I have 287. I'm way down there. And 40 Omicrons. Okay, I guess that's not functioning. And squad templates, not functioning either. But that's it. So SWGOH, it's an amazing resource. I tried to cover as much as I know about it, but I'm sure there's other things that I forgot to cover. Anyway, hope you enjoy using this resource. Hope it helps you a lot in your farming and your planning for GAC or whatnot, and for your guild. So thanks for watching. See you later.